Welcome to the Becoming Sovereign podcast. We are going to have a bit of a different episode this week. I don't have a guest for the first time in some 60 plus episodes. It just so happened that this week I did not have a guest on the schedule, and everything that unfurled over the past few days has come to just really put a damper and a somber mood about the Bitcoin space. And I have witnessed a lot over the last few days and just wanted to share some stories, get some thoughts out there, and just what I've observed, and just generally give my thoughts on this. These are my personal opinions. This has nothing to do with a sovereign. This has nothing to do with my capacity as CEO. This doesn't have anything to do with my thoughts from a business perspective. I'm not even going to get into the technical analysis of what happened, what could have been done, what wasn't done, who's to blame, anything like that. I'm just going to simply share my thoughts on what I've observed and give my thoughts on a hopeful message at the end and going forward. But this has undoubtedly been a dark time. And for me, it started Thursday afternoon, evening. My son had completed his first swim lesson. My wife and I took him. We'd been wanting to get him into swim lessons for a while, but they were only on Sunday mornings and conflicted with church. And so we decided to just wait till we moved to put him into swim lessons. And then lo and behold, just last week, they announced they were opening late Thursday afternoon swim lessons. And so that was perfect for us. My wife could leave work a little early, and I could get out of the house a little early and take my son there in the neighborhood. And it was just a wonderful experience watching him have so much joy in the pool and seeing my wife so happy to see him in the pool. I had to go in the pool with him and got to help him kick his feet and lay on his back. And it was just so wonderful. And it was just one of those beautiful Chicago evenings that you get probably less than 5 times a year. Just low 80s, low humidity, no wind, sun out, not a cloud in the sky, and it was perfect. And we had decided that we were going to go grab a bite to eat afterwards. A great local restaurant by us that we love going to, and we got some outdoor seating. We were having a nice charcuterie board and a glass of wine. I was having a glass of wine. My wife is very pregnant and not enjoying, but I was having some, and it was just very relaxing being out there, having our son with us. It was so wonderful, and I really do try to stay away from my phone when we're eating, but I happened to open it. I forget. I think maybe my wife asked me to look at something. I forget. But anyway, I opened my phone and I saw that I had 60 plus signal messages. And that, I'm sure that's quite normal for many of you, but that is very, very rare. Only something serious has happened, or there's a serious dispute in a group chat or something like that. It's when I have over 60, it's something to look at. And I looked in the Chicago BitDevs chat, and obviously the ColdCard information was dropped in there. And this, of course, was very new. And initially it was MK3s were being drained, but that the MK4s and later were safe. And so I was panicking a little bit because we had recently just got some coins back that we were actually using as collateral to close on a home, because the person that was supposed to buy our place couldn't close in time, and we were forced into a situation where we had to come up with cash, and our options were sell Bitcoin or borrow against it. And so we decided to do a low LTV loan through Strike, got the funds, closed on the place, and you actually had to wait 60 days to get your coins back. And I reached out to Strike and asked for a special exemption to get my coins back early, and they agreed. They were very accommodating, and I actually had moved the collateral from the loan back into my wife's MK3 just less than 48 hours later, and then 24 hours later, or excuse me, less than 48 hours earlier, and then this pops up, and I am freaking out. I obviously didn't enjoy the rest of dinner, was worried that the collateral I had moved off was on a compromised device, and from that point on, basically the past 72 hours have just been some of the worst and darkest times of my life, darkest thoughts, darkest actions by other purported human beings, and have really been going through a lot, thinking about a lot, and questioning many things. And long story short, we ended up getting back, and I had forgotten actually that we imported the seed phrase on my wife's MK3 from a Trezor. And so thankfully, by just dumb luck, not by anything we did, or maybe the grace of God, whatever you want to call it, we had an MK3 that did not generate our seed phrase and were spared. But that could have easily not been the case, and I can't even imagine the conversation I would have had to have with my wife had that been the case. And I can't even imagine how I would live with myself the rest of my life, knowing that I had caused that problem. And then, so we thought everything was safe. We moved the funds off there just out of an abundance of caution and into an MK4 wallet that I had done the dice rolls and had a passphrase. And so this was before we knew anything about that, but just a much better level of security. And so got that moved, and then all of a sudden it starts coming out Thursday night that, hey, maybe the MK4s and MK5s and the Qs are not quite as safe as we thought. They don't have the 128-bit or 256-bit entropy that we thought. And I, at that point, basically, I wouldn't say I had a meltdown, but my heart sunk farther than I've ever felt in my life. I was someone who recommended to all of my family and friends to put their Bitcoin into ColdCards, and did not force them to do dice rolls. I presented the dice rolls as an option, as something I did, but presented it as something that was probably overkill and unnecessary and an extra step and a tinfoil hatty, and you don't need to worry about that. And I have to live with that decision that I gave that advice. I'm not sure I will ever live that down. It's probably a regret I will take to the grave. Fortunately, no one in my sphere of family or friends or our customers lost anything, but that's just because of dumb luck and timing and the ability to ameliorate the situation, and that the fact that they were on MK4s and not MK3s, I would have just as easily made the same recommendation on MK3, and it's just a mere fact that people put their funds onto a later model that people didn't lose substantial amounts of money because of me. And I, at that point, called some friends of mine who have a significant amount of Bitcoin, and I had put them into a single sig setup without a passphrase and did not use dice rolls. And I called them. I said, guys, think we need to get on a plane. Obviously, I'm coming with you. I put you into this setup, and at 10 o'clock on Thursday night, we booked a flight, and we were on a plane the next morning at 7 a.m. and we were flying out of state, and you could feel the tension in the air. All of us were looking at each other, trying to pretend everything was okay, and we did have the laptop there, and we were checking the funds through Sparrow. They had saved their wallets on there, and so we were able to look at it and see that the funds were still there. So that obviously provided some level of comfort, but at the time we had no idea how quickly this attack could go, how quickly the entropy from the MK4 could be solved, and it was one of the scariest, most harrowing moments. Obviously, I didn't sleep at all Thursday night. I just laid awake staring at the ceiling, and Lollapalooza was going on here in Chicago. The neighborhood had after shows and people partying till 4 a.m. and police sirens and emergency vehicles just nonstop. It was just like the chaos of the situation was manifesting itself in real life around me, and it was just absolutely surreal. I laid in bed. I had my alarm set for 3:30 a.m. and I just, to get to the airport the next day, I stayed awake the entire time, and we spent the entire flight completely anxious, completely preoccupied. I spent Thursday night getting a couple family members off of the MK4 and into a dice roll with passphrase situation, transferring to another wallet and then getting it back into a more secure setup, and going through all of that on Zoom, and it was just a very difficult process, and thankfully everyone was willing to listen to me and move the funds off, and they're safe now. But these people trusted me, and now I'm telling them that the thing I set them up on was not to be trusted. And so as we landed the following day and got off the plane, immediately was on the phone. I was trying to text my mom at the time to explain to her what to do, because I couldn't get a Wi-Fi call through on the airplane. And so I did the best I could, and the second we landed was back on the phone with her as we're racing to grab an Uber and go to the locations where seed phrases and pins and devices were stored, so that we could properly move everything. And we're just racing through everything, dividing and conquer. You go here, you go there, do this, do that. Friends of mine running into their safe deposit boxes, going to secret locations, just dumping things into backpacks, just anything that was available. It was just dumped into a bag, brought back to their house, and we began to get to work. And fortunately, very quickly, we're able to log into the ColdCards and get everything moved into a temporary hot wallet. And at that point, obviously knew the funds were okay, and then it was just the sort of the administrative grind of going through, getting proper setups and dice rolls and complicated passphrases and where to store everything and all that, and it took a long time. It took hours, and ended up flying back Friday night. Meanwhile, helping who knows how many people along the way get their setup correct, trying to troubleshoot for them, guide them through things, reaching out to people. Some people said they couldn't get to anything until Saturday, and so had some calls the next morning lined up for people. I got home. Of course, there was a giant storm that delayed everything Friday night, and coming back and got home very late, and was finally able to help the couple final people I needed to Saturday morning, and everyone got their funds back. And I I regale you with this story not to say woe is me, or is some sort of narcissistic journaling like Anthony Fauci or something like that, but to illustrate how normal, I guess I'm normal, but just everyday Bitcoiners and people working in the space made these recommendations, thinking they were best in class. And I'm not going to say I was influenced by anyone. I'm not going to say that, oh, I listened to some advertisement on some podcast, or I trusted this one person. This was a device that was actively being used by serious developers, coders, people with way more knowledge than me were actively using these devices and swore by these devices. And so it wasn't just me being influenced or listening to an ad. It was watching real world, high IQ, high agency Bitcoiners use this tool. That is what sold me on it, and why I ultimately ended up moving from a Trezor, getting a proper air gap set up, and I did do the dice rolls and that, and the passphrase and that kind of stuff myself, but did not recommend it for other people. And all of this is to say and culminate with almost everyone that was out there making these recommendations, swearing by these products, was doing so from a place of good-hearted intent, of good intentions, of trying to do what was best, and trying to balance things out. And as I said earlier, I'm going to be kicking myself forever that I didn't force people to do the dice rolls, because that would have solved all of this, and create their own entropy. But immediately on Nostr and X and group chats and stuff, people just started dunking on people and saying, I told you so, and look at this post from 6 months ago, I was so right about everything, you're all idiots. And or, oh, I'm still rocking my old Trezor. And that's all well and good and great. You were able to see through everything and make good decisions. Anyone using a Trezor could have just as easily woken up with the same issue. It just so happened to be the ColdCard. And yes, there were technical reasons behind it. And, obviously no one found this until it seems like an AI agent came and found it. So for all the people Monday morning quarterbacking and gotchaing, no one discovered this beforehand. So this could have just as easily been embedded in any wallet's software. And listen, I get it. There were no bounty programs, corners were cut, code was changed, coding wasn't done correctly, and I get all that, and it's all easy to see post-mortem, of course. But the fact is, it went for 5 years without anyone finding it, and maybe some other companies are using better practices and did mitigate it because of that, or had more eyeballs on it, or more team members working on it, or more audits, or, I don't know. Maybe they practice better practices. But at the end of the day, it still is possible that human error could have been inserted along the way on any of these devices. And if there have been countless device failures in the past due to key shards and poor entropy and all other sorts of issues. And so this just happens to be the latest iteration. And feeling what I felt knowing the people I had put in this position, what they were feeling, to see some people out there really taking advantage to come at people or prop themselves up, some sort of vanity dunk or something, was just extremely dark and disheartening. And it's still going on at the time I record this. Everyone who didn't have a ColdCard's a genius, and they knew, and everyone involved with that project and the VC company, they were all scammers, and the guy who runs the company is a jerk, and all these sorts of things. And to the thoughts about people's personalities, I'm not going to say anyone's wrong about that, but to be happy that so many people lost savings or were put into situations of pure panic, and there's many stories out there of good longtime Bitcoiners losing inheritance, losing their life savings, and to be out there at a time like this, just trying to attack people's character, and because you didn't like them as a person, is just so dark and so sick. It just shocks me that humanity can act like this at a time. These aren't jokes. These aren't making light of this situation. I have no problem with people poking fun. Like, listen, the dark humor. I have no problem with that. But to actually be out there taking shots at people and trying to pump yourself up in the process, it really just stems from a place of narcissism and envy. And a lot of the people involved were public figures, and I promise you those public figures believed everything I did, that they were making the best recommendation, that they were putting their friends and family into the safest situation possible. Why would I possibly recommend something to my friends and family if I thought it was compromised or not the best out there? Of course I would recommend it what I thought was the best, and other people did too. And to be calling them grifters or shysters or whatever, like, I really think you should do some introspection, step back, and realize that there's probably no one on the planet that feels worse than those people right now. And a lot of the people on this project, I'm not going to say anything. There are definitely some strong personalities and some decisions and rhetoric that go back that I certainly wasn't a fan of, and people in my sphere were treated poorly and inconsiderately, and I don't discount any of that. But at the end of the day, there was still the intention by the team making these products to make the best product. Like, if they make the best product and they get the most users, this is obviously catastrophic. This is a bankruptcy situation. The company is a zero now, or a negative probably if they have any liabilities. So to ascribe some sort of malintent, or that's not to say that maybe bad decisions were made, maybe corners were cut, maybe full responsibility wasn't taken. Sure, we can argue all that. We can say that's out there, but to ascribe malintent or evil or grifter status, I just think it's just showing something deeper about your soul and who you are and what you think. And even if all of that stuff were true, the amount of people hurt by this, or potentially hurt by this, maybe just like keep those things to yourself for a little bit. There are so many people in my sphere, in the Bitcoin sphere, that were panicking, trying to figure things out, move funds. Like this was a really really dark time, and like maybe just let the dust settle a little bit here, and let people collect their thoughts and just their lives. This could have upended and probably did upend many many lives. And you don't always need to have some mean dagger vain comment, ready to go to try to boost yourself up. It's I don't know. And then at the same time, I saw incredible light. People out there helping, people out there giving guides, companies announcing plans and support for people that needed help. Just watching people in my sphere go out to their friends and family and help people that were in these situations. And then ended up going to an event on Saturday at the Chicago Bitcoin Collective, and it was obviously a somber and dark time in the industry, but there was just a level of camaraderie and, hey, we're all fighting the good fight. A lot of us were subject to this attack or close to people that were subject to this attack, and there was just kinship and understanding amongst people that, hey, no one was doing anything malicious here. You weren't some dumb idiot who didn't read the code and made a bad recommendation. That, hey, look, there were all these warnings from other companies saying not to use this device because of this. Like, that none of that existed, and everyone had a feeling for each other that this was just a horrible situation that everyone who had anything to do with this product truly felt horrible about. And it was comforting to be a part of that, and to see that in people, and see all the good, and see all the help, and the white knights, or whatever you want to call them, that were out there trying to get people to safety, amidst the constantly changing information, new information, updates, and misinformation, and speculation, and different practices that may not have been best practices being suggested. And it was really a juxtaposition of dark and light. And for me, I've spent the last 5 or 6 years wholly convinced that we're in a spiritual battle for the world right now, and what's going on Earth is the wars, COVID, the propaganda, the surveillance, all of this kind of stuff is just a massive spiritual battle of good and evil. And that's honestly what the last 72 hours have felt like for me, seeing the dark and seeing the light. And I don't know how the Bitcoin community is going to move forward. It's never going to be the same. This was not some FTX or Voyager or Celsius or some incident like that where everyone in the industry was screaming, don't trust these exchanges, get into a hard wallet, take self-custody. There was no consensus or really any voices out there like, hey, the ColdCard is a bad wallet, don't use it. I'm sure everyone's gonna do the I told you so's and I knew it was bad and blah blah blah, but there was no one out there sounding the alarm, or if they were, it was very few people and buried. And so that's not to say people weren't and that we shouldn't have listened to them potentially, but I'm just saying it was not as pervasive as these other situations, that this was part of what was considered to be best practices and people still got burned, which is what makes this so much more difficult, as opposed to, hey, if you left your coins on an exchange, that's kind of on you. That was a risk that you took on, and that is not what happened here. And certainly, as I said, myself, I've recommended this product. Many people have recommended this product, and many of us thought it was best in class. Many of us used it for our own stuff, and that, because of the recommendations, because self-custody, hardware wallet, everything was considered best practices, and people still got burned, and the groups of people, that were involved in all of this, it's the landscape is forever changed. It will never ever be the same. And I certainly have witnessed behavior from people that I will never see the same again. I will never see them as the people I thought they were, or at the very least I will be discounting their opinions and their thoughts on things significantly, just based on how they've reacted here. And it's sorry, it's sad, it's a reflection of a dark inner self that people need to work on themselves. And it's jealousy, it's envy, it's vanity, it's narcissism, it's whatever you want to call it. It's a lot of these vices and sins, frankly, pride. And I'm not saying that none of this existed on amongst the group of us. Certainly, I have plenty of those sins that I commit on a daily basis. So this is not to absolve anyone of being perfect or pious or anything like that, but just to say that we're fallen beings, and a lot of people really displayed that fallen side, and in a time where we should have been coming together to help each other, to support each other, to say, I know it sucks, now let's look back, diagnose the problem, and start fixing this going forward. The looking back at the problem, diagnosing it, and fixing it going forward turned into a slam session or a self boasting session, and that was just hard for me to see. That being said, like I said, the amount of goodness that I did see come out of people was tremendous, and something that gives me hope. And so that's all I have for now. And again, this was just something I wanted to get down. Of course, of all weeks of doing the show, this was the one we didn't have a guest scheduled, and wasn't going to post anything for Monday morning. But here we go. These are my thoughts alone, my ramblings, my free flow, and this has nothing to do with the company Sovereign or any of the people that work there or any of their thoughts or anything like that. And so I will sign off saying I was so happy to see so many people jump in and help, and I hope that's the spirit that continues to persist throughout the Bitcoin community, and that self-custody is incredibly important, and that the only way Bitcoin works is if we can have self-custody. It is it is digital gold, or gold 2.0, or digital gold, if we don't have the ability to self-custody and transact peer-to-peer. So it is imperative that that we maintain these rights, and we have setups that work and setups that are proper. And this is not a reason to give up on self-custody, but a reason to strengthen the controls around self-custody. And I'm hopeful that the industry moves in that direction, and I'm sure it will. So with that, I thank you if you made it to the end here. Appreciate you listen to my ramblings, and feel free to reach out and share your thoughts with me as well. I am more than happy to talk about any of this with anyone. And to friends and family, I'm so glad no funds were lost and we recovered everything, and was happy to help. But I will never forgive myself for not properly advising you, and I hope that I can be forgiven for that as well. So thank you all, and God bless all of you, and let's hope this makes Bitcoin stronger and the community stronger, and that we can put this ugly situation behind us one of these days. All right, thanks everyone.